couple of weeks ago, I was in Sweden and took the train from Stockholm to Gothenburg. Gothenburg is about 300 miles away. It's about a three-hour train ride. Took the train, had a beautiful scenery, great countryside, had a great day in Gothenburg, and about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, got back on the train to take the 3-hour ride back to Stockholm. We're on the train. It's about an hour or two into the ride. It's dark outside. Can't see anything. The interior of the train is dimly lit. Most of the people around me, well, there weren't that many people on the train, but most of the people around me were dozing. And it was quiet, and everybody was sort of being lulled by the chugging of the train. And the train happened to have Wi-Fi. So this is a Saturday night. And so I wasn't really looking at my emails that often. I would glance at them once in a while. But I happened to glance down, and I saw that Megan Braverman in our office had emailed me and said, can you give me a call? So about 8:30 on this Saturday night, I'm on the train. I get on the phone, and I Skype her. It was a voice-to-voice. It wasn't face-to-face, but I Skype her. And we had our phone call. Fortunately, it wasn't anything disastrous. It was just something we needed to talk about in a timely manner. Had the phone call. She sounded like she was next door, got off the phone, and continued on the train and continued on the ride. But when I got off the phone, I thought, that is amazing. It is amazing that I can be on a train in the middle of Sweden, God knows where, and talk to someone in Los Angeles, 5,500 air miles away, and sound like she's next door and have a perfect connection. And I realize that we all email everybody all over the world every day. We're calling all over the world. In our day-to-day routine, that might not strike me, but in this context, it struck me in terms of how much technology, how far it's brought us, how much technology has changed the world, and how much it's changed our marketing. Because everything we're going to be talking about today is really driven by the technology and the changes in our world. And the changes that technology is driving in marketing are going much faster than that train was going. If you're marketing the way you were 5 years ago, you're marketing in ancient times. And if you're marketing the way you were 2 years ago, maybe you're up to Victorian times. But what we want to be doing is marketing in the moment. And that's what we want to be talking about today. Excuse me, I have one technology glitch here. We want to be marketing in the moment, and what we're going to be talking about today are 5 ideas to make your marketing work here and now. I'm Sharon Berman. I'm principal of Berbay Marketing and PR, and we create the visibility and credibility that fuel revenue growth. So today, I want to be going through these 5 concepts. I'll say that I don't think any of these concepts are going to be new, but it's what we need to do with them today. Okay, number 1. Oh, by the way, 2, why don't we take questions at the end? If you have a question, you'll see on your screen you have a little box where it says question. Type your question in, and I'll be happy to address it at the end of our webinar. Okay, content marketing, cool content marketing. What is content marketing? Content marketing is about developing and sharing content. It's critical that your content is relevant, valuable, and engaging to your audience. The goal of content marketing is the bottom line. It's to acquire new clients and to increase business from existing clients. When I first heard the term content marketing, maybe 18, 24 months ago, I thought, oh my gosh, it's a new name for an old idea. Professionals have always marketed themselves by giving away their content, by demonstrating their expertise, by educating their audiences. That's how professional services people market themselves. So in a sense, this isn't new. But what's new, really, is the fact that in olden days there was a disconnect between marketing and public relations. For example, I remember in another lifetime I was with Arthur Andersen. Marketing and public relations sat on one side of the building. All the professionals with their substantive work sat elsewhere, not anywhere near us. And marketing and PR would work on promoting the events. We'd work on getting a press release out about a new hire, you know, a new service line. But we weren't working or ever really discussing in depth the work that the professionals were doing. And they wouldn't be thinking about the fact that, oh my gosh, that's the third time a client asked me that question this week. I should really talk to marketing about how we might be able to promote that. That wouldn't happen. There was a total disconnect. But today, it's totally different. Today, marketing and PR works hand in hand, or wants to work hand in hand and should be working hand in hand with the professionals to be pulling the content out, to be talking with them. What we're doing with our clients day in and day out is asking them what they're working on, so we're looking for what we can package, what the content is. And what we're looking for and what you want to be looking for is, first, you have your content. You're writing your briefs, you're doing your tax work, you're you know, helping somebody buy a jet plane, that sort of thing. You want to be thinking about the substantive work, but also in terms of what that means in terms of content and how that can be packaged. When I say packaging, we're talking about, can you take some of the ideas and put them in an article? Can you do a webinar? Can you do a white paper? Can they be packaged in terms of a media pitch? How do you take that material and leverage it so it goes much farther than just your mind or just the work itself? And then how do you distribute it? Distributing it via your website, distributing it via social media, distributing it so that you can get it out into the world and make it work for you. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. But what the most important thing about this is, how do you use it so that you engage with your audience, so that you get somebody to call or even comment and say, that was very interesting, or I never thought about that, or let's talk further. This is all about engagements, engaging. And it's really this technology that has created this voracious appetite for content, because we have all of these social media sites, we have all of these media outlets, this proliferation. So there's this tremendous need, but what we need to do with content is not only develop it and distribute it, but make sure that we are focusing on where it goes so that we get it to the places that make the most sense for us, for you, for your clients, where they are. Okay, so what this means for your marketing is, first of all, how do you identify content? You know, clients might say, I don't know what to write about, or I'm really not sure what you mean by content. If you look around, I always visualize it this way, if you look around the floor, around your desk, you are swamped by content. What are you working on today? What did you work on yesterday? If you were helping somebody buy a jet plane yesterday, how about a checklist? 10 things you need to know before you purchase your next you know, can't remember the name of the plane, but you purchase your next plane. 5 things you need to know about X. Trends in contract negotiation. I mean, you work day in and day out with so much material that you can transform into content. And package it. How do you package it? When I talk about packaging, I'm talking about, okay, you have this material, you have these ideas, you have these thoughts, but you have to put them in some sort of structure. That can be an article. We happen to love articles because articles are being published, which when you're published gives you powerful third-party credibility. Or when you're quoted by the media, the thoughts can be pitched to the media as an idea for, here's a great story idea. You can do a webinar about them. You can do a white paper about them. You can do a blog post about these. It goes on, and the beauty of all of this is that you can keep repurposing the same content so that you keep magnifying it and create this force that's going to position you as an expert. Vehicles, okay, it used to be just your website and your e-newsletter, right? Now it can be your LinkedIn, it can be tweeted, it can be your Facebook, it can be your blog, which is part of social media. So all of these vehicles to get this out there. And what you want is a conversation. You want this online conversation to go offline. That is the key to all of this, is how do you take this online work, this online engagement offline so that you can have a phone call or you can meet and that you can really start to build a relationship. Professionals are always saying, we get our business through relationships. And I don't know anybody who doesn't get their business through relationships, but you have to engage with people to start that relationship. And this is all about engaging with people and reminding them that you're there. So that's concept number one, content marketing. And we'll come back to this because this is really, this is so important in today's world. Okay, next, vivid visuals. Now, I know this text is hard to read, but I want you to think about if you came to a web page and this is the kind of text you saw. If you were looking for a service or product and you saw this kind of text, you would probably do exactly what I would do, which is to say forget it and click on to the next result in the Google search. And I want you to know that I have, in this text, I have embedded the winning numbers for the next big lottery in California. And I'll pay the winner their winnings out of my own pocket. And I'm willing to do that because I know nobody is going to read this text. This is going to deter anybody who looks at this. So we want to be thinking about how we capture attention immediately with visuals. I came across some stats. The National Center for Biotech says that the average attention span, how long we can focus on something without being distracted, or let's say like a web page, in the year 2000 was 12 seconds. Today it's 8 seconds. And according to this information, that's 1 second less than a goldfish. So that's why we have our friendly goldfish here. 30% of visitors will leave a web page if it won't download in 1 to 5 seconds. I know how quickly I'll jump off. So we want to be capturing people quickly with those visuals. Okay. We all know, too, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But the pictures are changing. The kinds of pictures we're using are changing. We're looking at infographics, which we'll talk more about, and we're looking at video. So infographics, what's different about an infographic? You've all seen infographics. They're engaging. If they're well done, they're engaging, they're friendly, they're attractive, they draw you in. An infographic is any graphic that displays and explains information like we have here. It has a flow. It presents complex information quickly and clearly. It integrates words and graphics, and it's easier to understand than words alone. This is a key point because if you think about it, okay, a graphic can be a bar chart. A graphic can be with an X and Y axis. I don't know about you, but my mind really turned, they don't draw me in. An infographic, when it's well done, will draw me in. A bar chart is usually something I'll skim over. So you want to be thinking about what kind of information you might be able to put into an infographic. Here's some great examples. This one is about copyright infringement. You wouldn't normally think perhaps that could go into a graphic format like this. But this is just part of one that talks about copyright infringement. And here, something else about an IRS audit. Now, you hear the words IRS audit, and the stab of fear might go through you, or you say, stay away from me. But this really makes it friendly. It's information that is accessible, that people can look at. It's engaging. It's engaging in terms of drawing you in. It's engaging in terms of, oh, let me talk to this person because they seem like they're approachable and accessible. Let me talk to this CPA or accounting firm. One thing about infographics is that they are works of art. So it's not like anybody can sit down and do an infographic. They take a lot of skill, a lot of thought, and we're going to see a lot of really poorly done infographics if you keep your eyes open. But this is part of your packaging. How can you package your material perhaps in an infographic manner? A couple of other things you want to be thinking about. This gets back to content. You don't want to be doing an infographic for infographic's sake. I have seen several infographics where you go, you know what, this really should have been presented just in a narrative format. It would have been a lot better. It was trying like to force a round peg into a square hole. You have to keep in mind that your content, it doesn't matter what the format is, your content has to be engaging. It doesn't have to be breakthrough. But it just has to be something that will be of interest to your audience. And as I said, it has to be, you don't want to just be doing it for an infographic's sake. Okay, again, vivid visuals, video. We've heard a lot about video marketing. Video marketing has become mainstream, especially among professional services firms. It used to be, well, I don't know, is it too, you know, what are clients going to think? It's become, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill, but you see it more and more, and it's become increasingly important, especially in terms of how videos rank in terms of search engine optimization and search engine results. The quality of your video has to be high quality. The benefit of videos is that they get your prospect or your referral source gets to see you in action. They get to see you and how you work and who you are. You want to keep the video short. I see sometimes I get on a site and see it's a 5-minute video, and I'm going, oh my God, come on, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes max. Who has time for anything more than that? And really, people, think about it. You feel that you've gotten a sense of somebody in about 10 seconds. You want the video to be current, and you want to keep current on your videos. You don't want to just put one video up. It's telling your story through video the way you would through blog posts or through your other writing. You want it to be consistent. You want it to be, to have a video this week and maybe a video next month and the video next month, so that you're creating this body of work through videos and that people can see you immediately. Okay, social media. We all know about social media. By the way, I skipped over a really interesting stat about videos. According to Forrester Research, 1 minute of video is equal to 1.8 million words or 3,600 web pages in terms of the kind of messaging that you want to get across. That 1 minute of video is going to get it across in 1 minute, what it would take much more narrative to tell. Okay, social media. This is not a new concept, but it's being done in a different way. We went through this period with social media where there was a frenzy of it doesn't matter what you have to say, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Get on Facebook, get on LinkedIn, you know, start tweeting, just start using it. And it really, there were some consultants who really were working to stir up this frenzy. Fortunately, things have died down, or things have come, the frenzy is over, and now we can really focus a lot more. And that's, social media is here to stay. Its impact is only growing. It's not a matter of should we be engaging in social media. It's a matter of how are you going to do it, because you can't ignore this. It's just like you can't ignore a current website. You can't ignore this. The impetus is just too strong, and it's not going to stop. And we have several younger generations following, and they're just going to be more engaged in social media. So we have to keep moving with it. But you want to be focused, and you have to be selective. Okay, so we like to focus on, and we think the most important one for professionals is LinkedIn. That's what's new, is is this intense focus on LinkedIn, and I'll explain why in a minute. The other one I want to talk about and touch on is Google+. Why LinkedIn? LinkedIn can be your own personal website. You can tell your whole story on LinkedIn. A lot of times with a law firm or an accounting firm or whatever kind of professional services firm, you may be limited by how quickly things are being done, by the format that things are being done in, and you may have a more recent story you want to tell, or you may want to keep things more current, or for example, the firm you're with may not want it in your bio for you to be talking about the other firms you've been with, where you think that's very important. And by the way, I'm not telling anybody to go outside their firm's social media policy, and I think it's very important that before you engage in social media that you should think through your social media policy so that everybody knows what the guidelines are. But within those guidelines, you have so much power on your LinkedIn profile. First of all, it comes up very high in search engine marketing results. And if you look here, there's so much of a story you can tell, and this only is a partial part of the story. You can list your publications, and you can see with recency how quickly, how consistently things have been posted. You can talk about, there's a separate section, which we don't show in here, about your speaking engagements. A lot of things that you might not be able to get in your bio on your firm's website can be brought together here. You've already received emails about somebody has validated your expertise in business development or in, project finance or whatever it is. There's a whole section there with, all the validations of your expertise. We really encourage our clients to make use of LinkedIn. And if you put up a LinkedIn profile a year or two ago and you haven't revisited it, it's time to go back and pump it up. If you did it 6 months ago, it's time to go back and pump it up. You want to really work on keeping your LinkedIn profile as your main focus to tell your story. Okay, Google+. I want to touch on Google+ for a minute. By the way, social media here, I skipped over this. One other thing about social media, which is really fabulous, is that the advertising on social media really allows you to target very specifically those you want to get in front of. It extends your reach, and you get very fast feedback in terms of how your advertising campaign is doing so that you can immediately make changes. Social media is really a great vehicle if you're considering advertising, and it's a great vehicle for thinking about advertising professional to professional or professional to other businesses. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. And it's still in it's more than infancy, but it's definitely not fully mature, and leaves a lot of opportunity. Okay, Google+. I'm talking about Google+ because it's not going to go away. Google had hoped that Google+, which is a social network owned by Google, there was a lot of talk about, first it was really big, and then it seemed to fade away, and there's been talk about, is it even going to last? I absolutely believe it's going to last. It has the power of Google behind it. I would encourage you all to get online. If you don't have a Google+ profile, to set one up. It's very simple to do. Just Google how you set up a Google+ profile, and I think it's really important for you to at least plant your flag in that domain. Okay, and we have our little goldfish here to just remind us about the lack of attention and how we have to capture people's attention right away. All right. Okay, mastering mobile. Here you have an infographic talking about attorneys and their use of mobile phones and smartphones. Okay, this past weekend there were 10 million new iPhones sold with the new operating software. 10 million. I would say that probably a lot of those were bought by professionals. So when you think about how you look for information, most likely you're looking for things and you're looking for it on your smartphone. You may not be at your desktop. What you want to think about is when your clients or prospects or referral sources are looking for you, on a smartphone, are they having the kind of user experience that is going to prompt them to pick up the phone? I would say for most professional service firms today, they're not going to have that. They're not giving their visitor that kind of experience. Their visitors are going to find either something that's really difficult to read, like this on the left, instead of something that's really tailored for a mobile phone. So you want to be thinking about how do you give your visitor not a fabulous experience that draws them in as soon as they get to your website, whether they're looking for it on an iPad, on an iPhone, or on their desktop. Okay, so how do you do this? A couple of ways to do this. There are mobile plugins, which is software that really basically converts your current website that you see on a desktop to a format that works on a cell phone or on a smartphone. A lot of these are relatively inexpensive, and it's a very quick conversion. However, it does take a lot of modification, meaning it's just like sort of a Google translation. It can convert it into a format, but you're going to need to go back and really modify a lot of the text and make different changes. But at least you're not starting from scratch, and it's one of the quickest and easiest ways to become mobile friendly. Some of the, let's see, we happen to use for our own site, we use something called Duda, that's D-U-D-A, Duda Mobile. There's also Mobify and Mofuse, and they can be as inexpensive as $10 a month. Where the time, effort, and expense comes in is that you need to make the modifications. The other thing is they're limiting. They are limiting. You can only do so many things. It's not ideal, but it's definitely a step up from what you have in the old version here. The other thing you want to be thinking about is the ideal is to have a website that's programmed so that it has responsive design. Responsive design means that the site can be viewed. If the website knows, I don't know how it works exactly, the website knows what it's being viewed on and formats itself to work on that phone or iPad or on the desktop. In terms of responsive design, most sites that are being done today are being done with responsive design. We always specify that when we're doing a website for a client. You want to make sure that that's part of what you're asking for. If you just had a website done and it wasn't done with responsive design, you can have the site reprogrammed. It doesn't mean you're redesigning the site. It means the site is being reprogrammed. That can be more expensive. That costs somewhere, it can start about $5,000 and up depending on your site and how complex it is. We have decided, for example, we've used the Duda Mobile and modified it to create a mobile site. Our plan is next year, early next year, to start on our new website, so we decided to postpone working with responsive design, but that our next site will be that way. Anyway, so you want to be thinking about what it means for your marketing. Your website, you have to be accessible and findable and enticing and attractive across all of these devices, across all of these platforms. Consider mobile plugins. Think about the responsive design. And at a minimum, just make sure that when your prospects get to your website on the smartphone, that they can immediately call you, that you know that little box comes up that says, do you want to call? And you can just click, because I go to a lot of websites where there's nothing there except a phone number that you have to remember, you have to memorize, and then go to your cell phone. So I would say one of the most important points of today's webinar is to be focusing on your mobile marketing. Okay, powerful PR. In the old world of public relations, there was print and there was broadcast. In today's world, we know that the outlets have proliferated. What does this mean to your marketing? Okay, it means a lot more opportunity with a lot more outlets. It also means that there's an increase in outlets, but there are fewer reporters around. And these reporters and journalists need as much support as possible. So when we can bring them material, when we can bring them an article, when we can help them do their job, that just helps build the relationship. And that there's been a lot more opportunity for that. And we also get a lot more call for articles because journalists just don't have time to write the stories themselves. They might say, listen, that's interesting, but if you can do an article on that subject, that'd be great. I'd be happy to run it. I'm not going to be able to, put it in the schedule in terms of writing it myself. Okay, journalists are also playing musical chairs because they've been downsized so quickly that it's not where it might once have been, where somebody's at their desk on the same beat for years and years. They change very rapidly. That's why we work with very tailored media lists, because it helps us follow up in a very specific and targeted manner. Okay. Quantification. Journalists are asking for more data. When we come to them with a pitch, they want the data, they want the case study, they want the specifics. We're seeing the full circle in the evolution of pitching. It used to be, I only want you to connect with me via email. Don't call me. I don't take phone calls. Just email me. And then it was, okay, now just tweet me. You can get hold of me if you just tweet me. I'm not looking at email. I'm just looking at Twitter. Now we're hearing again, you know what? Nobody is calling me. I get 1,000,001 emails a day. I can't even go through them. If you really want to get my attention, give me a phone call. So we're seeing the full circle there. And the integration of PR and social media, you cannot separate public relations from your social media in terms of the distribution channel. Social media is so much of the distribution channel, and effective and successful PR depends so much on social media that you cannot separate them today. So you need to be thinking about what your social media strategy is, and we'd be happy to talk with you about that. Okay, what this means to you. So much more opportunity for expert positioning. And really, once this gets to content, you want to be generating a lot of content, because that contributes, that levels the playing field. You can have as much content as any big firm, but you need to control and manage where that content goes so it goes where you want it to go. What this also means is that you want a robust social media program. You don't want something that's going to help you leverage your PR. And it also means that you can do a lot of it yourself. We're here to do it. Your marketing department can do it, but you can do a lot of it yourself. There's a lot more opportunity. Couple points here is, in all of this technology, yes, it makes us run faster, but it's created so much opportunity for everybody to position themselves as experts. Okay, just to wrap up here, a couple more points, concepts. There's a concept I call transparency. Transparency is the fact that everybody is reviewing everything, including us, including, what your thoughts are on this webinar, what your thoughts are about how we're doing, about how your clients think you're doing. There's total transparency. And my belief is that you cannot hide from it. We hear professionals say, no, I'm not going to go on Yelp, or I'm not going to, participate in AVO, even though I may have a profile up there, because what if somebody says something bad? Well, somebody is going to say something bad. The way my viewpoint is, somebody is going to say something bad. It's just part of the world. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot more positive reviews up there. But it's the way the world is moving. We have this transparency, and that's not going to change, and it's just going to become more widespread. So, my feeling is you want to engage with it now, while the rest of the world is not, because Yelp, for instance, comes up so much higher in search engine rankings. So why not participate on that? People are looking at Yelp. That's just one example. AVO, the reviews on AVO if you're a lawyer. Okay, shorter life cycle. This is really important. Everything today has a shorter life cycle. If you're doing a website, you look at that website and say, I know, 18 to 24 months, we are redoing that website. People come to us and say, okay, well, I want to do this brochure. I want to make sure I'm really thinking this brochure has to last us at least 5 years. Forget it. Marketing material you do today, if you get 18 months out of it, you're doing well. And you want to embark on that with the idea that this is a life cycle today. You finish your website, you have a breather, and then you just start thinking about the next one. And that's just not because we're a marketing firm and that we want to keep ahead of the trends. It's for everybody. Look at the websites that were done a few years ago. They look so dated to today's website. So you want to keep in mind that that's just the way of the marketing world today. And again, this has created so much more opportunity for us. First of all, opportunity to to position yourself, to to become an expert, to position yourself as an expert and not have to wait for the New York Times to do it for you. It's also given us an opportunity to level the playing field. For those firms that grab the opportunity to leverage and work the online world, they can look as big and have as solid a footprint as firms many times their size. And I think there's so much potential there, and I'm still surprised when I don't see firms run and grab that, because it just seems like, why wouldn't you? Anyway, okay, so that's where the way of the world today, the marketing world today is. And in terms of business development, you know, I know that everybody here listening to this webinar is experienced in business development. You're an experienced marketer, that you're focused on not letting your marketing get stale, or you wouldn't, you know, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this today. And that if you incorporate these concepts, you're going to maximize your marketing mileage. So thank you very much for listening. Greatly appreciate it. And I'm open to questions. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay. Now, this is a great question. Okay, who develops infographics? Design teams, graphic artists, skills needed. Many free online platforms. Okay, many free online platforms to use. PictoChart is one of the more popular ones we've used. That's great, and I hope that's useful to everybody. We haven't used that, and I'll take a look at it right away. We find that when we develop the infographics, we usually will develop a lot of the content in terms of the words and the quantities, the quantification, the numbers, the stats, but then we'll bring it to a graphic artist. They're just like everything else. There are a lot of different ways to do that. But thank you very much for that suggestion. That sounds interesting. Okay. The other thing is, I had another question here, is about how can you get professionals to create the all-important content we need for marketing? Well, I think you have to make it as easy as possible for them. Number one is help them identify the content, because we find that a lot of the value we bring is that we hear things differently. We can be talking to a professional who says, I don't have anything to talk about, there's nothing going on, and we'll be listening to the conversation and say, well, that's really interesting. Well, that is, you know, we didn't know that. There's a lot we can do at that point. So I think you have to help them identify it. I think you have to help them get it done, ghostwrite it, interview them and have a ghostwriter, just tell them to throw the words down and that you'll do the editing. You have to make it as possible for them. And I think you just have to keep after them. I think it's a lot of follow-up as it is in marketing. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Please just get in touch. And thank you so much for listening today.